Why do we use dice? And why do we use the dice that we do? Do we always need to use dice? Yeah, advantage is a big bonus, but exactly how big? Those questions and more answered in this video. Hi, my name is Andrew, and today I'm talking about the math of dice, probability, and how it affects our D&D games. The most basic thing to understand about D&D, and this is true across all editions and across most levels, is that you always have a non-trivial chance, about 30 to 40%, of missing. This is because D&D started as a modification to chainmail, which are a set of medieval wargaming rules written by Gary Gygax and Jeff Perrin in 1971. Wargaming as a base is meant to be quick to resolve, because you aren't running one character, but potentially dozens. And actually, most modern wargames simplify things even more by resolving combat with D6s. Even in the early days, D20s have been used to resolve combat, because a D20 is essentially a way to randomly determine a percent with a step of 5%. Each phase has a 5% chance of occurring. There are also percentile-based systems where you use a D100 to resolve actions. The issue to my mind with percentile systems is that a 1% difference is basically impossible for a human to easily detect. Even a 5% difference can be missed. It's not impossible for, during a battle, the fact that you just got a +1 sword to never be relevant. And a feature of D20s is that if you need to roll a 10 to succeed, you might assume that you have a 50% chance of succeeding, but because you only need a 10, and there are 10 other results higher than it, in addition to the target, we actually have a 55% chance. This is an intentional aspect of the math of DCs and ACs. You merely need to exceed or equal. But why do we use dice at all? Dice are a very useful way to resolve actions where the outcome is not certain, because based on a target number, you can either fail or succeed. Outcome is basically certain, or to not ask for a dice roll when there's a reasonable chance of failure. I'll restate that into advice that I think is actually useful. Do not ask for a roll if you aren't prepared for them to fail. Don't ask for a skill check where, if they fail, they won't have access to critical information for the plot to progress. A better way, instead, is to say that if they fail that check, they don't gain the specific information they need, but they learn where they can gain that information. The most rules as written way of doing this is to A, keep in mind that you cannot critically fail a skill check. Rolling a 1 does not mean an automatic failure like it does with an attack roll. And B, to create a scaling DC, where even if you only cumulatively get a 5, you still get something. One thing that I wish was in the core rules for D&D, and it actually is in a game like Shadowdark, is that if you are skilled in a thing and there is no time pressure, then you can just do it. No roll required. I'm not talking about passive scores, which require a lot of DM arbitration, but an actual rule. This sort of rule would greatly improve niche protection. Here's what I mean. So yeah, you guys see some magical runes on the wall up ahead of you.
Yes, I go to investigate the runes. I am quite proficient. Tell me, what secrets do these runes possess?
Well, you're going to have to roll.
I must roll? No worry. I am quite proficient. I am certain to succeed. I have rolled a 3.
Yeah, unfortunately, even with your bonuses, that's not going to be enough.
Oh shit, I check out those rules too! What they say?
Yeah, you can go ahead and roll.
Oh, I gotta roll? That's a 20, let's go! Yeah!
Oh god, did he have a sword the whole time? Now that kind of thing happening once can be funny, but because of the tendency to allow skill dogpiling at some tables, it can become an issue. There are several ways to prevent that sort of thing, but the easiest is just to say that if you are skilled at something, and there is no time pressure, then it just works, you just do it. Whoa, where'd this robe come from? Much better. There are tons of other dice we also use. I'm going to talk a bit about the D6, because next to the D20, it is the thing that we most commonly roll. Each face has a 1 in 6, or 16.7%. Because of the large probability weight on each face, most games that use them, even goddamn Monopoly, use 2d6, or multiple. And who even owns Monopoly these days? Wait, no, oh god, no. Anyways, the advantage of a multi-D6 system is that it weights the results towards the average. A very basic concept of statistics is that the more trials of a thing you do, the more likely it is that your results will approach the average. If you flip a coin 4 times, there's still a 12.5% chance that you get all heads or all tails. If you flip a coin 100 times, the probability of something like that becomes much, much lower. Take the 3rd level spell, Fireball, for example. It does 8d6 damage. It has a minimum of 8 and a maximum of 48. But because of the number of dice we are rolling, it heavily trends towards the average of 28. I don't think I've ever seen one do less than 18 or more than 38 damage. The mathematical average result of any dice is very easy to determine. You take the highest face waste, divide it by 2, and add 0.5 to it. Why add the 0.5? Well, the lowest thing you can roll is a 1, so that weights the average slightly upwards. That's the shorthand method. The longhand is to add each of the faces together and divide it by the total number of faces, which is the normal way to find an average. For a D4, 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 3 is 6, plus 4 is 10. 10 divided by 4 is 2.5. The probability of getting any result on a standard dice is going to be even. You are equally likely to get any result from any other. When we start adding more dice, though, things change. The second dice takes us from a straight line to a pyramid. The third dice gives us a curve. And the fourth dice and every dice after makes it look more and more like a normal distribution. Take stat generation, for example. The way you rolled stats in the early days of D&D and in Shadowdark is that you would roll 3d6. The average of a d6 is 3.5, so 3d6 is 10.5, which is where we get the idea that having a 10 in a stat is the commoner average. It has the 0 modifier, because the characters produced by 3d6 are rarely heroic. Now, the more common modern way to roll stats is to use 46 drop the lowest. This maintains the legacy of ranging from 3 to 18, but increases the average to about 12. This is because another way to affect probability is to roll 2 dice and take the higher, or roll 2 dice and take the lower. This is known as 5e's advantage-disadvantage system. The way that advantage affects probability is somewhat complicated, so I'll try to explain. There are some links below with a more detailed explanation of the math, but the basic overview is that advantage is about a +3, while disadvantage is about a -3. This chart helps to illustrate the difference, and we can actually see that it's actually closer to a +4 or a +5 near the middle results, but much less at the extremes. If you need to roll a 20, advantage only increases the chance from 5% to 9.75%. Now, you may wonder why it isn't doubled. You're rolling 2d20s, which independently have a 5% chance of getting a 20, but that 0.25% represents the 1 in 400 times that you roll 2 20s, because having rolled the first, the second doesn't help you any. The mathematical explanation of this chart is that you find the probability of hitting your target number or better. We have a 30% chance of rolling a 15 or better with only 1 die. When we have advantage, we take that probability of rolling a 15 or better, 0.3, and multiply by the probability of not getting a 15 or better, 0.7. 0.3 times 0.7 is 0.21, which we then add to our 0.3 to get the probability of rolling a 15 with advantage. Now, disadvantage works the same way, but instead of adding, we subtract. 0.3 minus 0.21 is 0.09, or 9%. The reason we don't simply add the probability twice, 0.3 plus 0.3, which would give us 0.6, is that we aren't rolling 2d20s and keeping both results. We are only keeping the best result, meaning that if we capture the desired result with 1 die, the result of the second die doesn't matter at all. Now, how does all of this factor into your D&D game? The short answer is what you probably already know. Advantage significantly improves the odds of success, much more than a +3 at the typical DCs, while disadvantage grants a significant decrease to those odds. The long answer is that by playing with the many factors, granting advantage, canceling advantage, imposing disadvantage, scaling the DC up or down, you can massively change the odds of success. Consider that rolling an 8 with disadvantage is about as hard as rolling a 13 without disadvantage. The core math of 5e, and many other games for that matter, is relatively predictable. As skills and bonuses scale, ACs and DCs also scale, meaning that across all levels, you still probably need to roll an 8 or a 9 to hit. Advantage never ceases to be a relevant bonus. Power gamers like me know this stuff intuitively, and we will do our best to attain advantage however we can. So if you are a new DM, be wary of the question, can I get advantage on this roll? I'm not saying don't give it if you think it's earned, but just be intentional with the awarding of it. It's significantly going to alter the probability of success. If you have any thoughts on the way math and probability plays a factors in TTRPGs, please include them in the comments below.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.
Peace out.
Secret tunnel through the mountain.
Secret tunnel.